I'm happy to announce you the today's session participants. My colleague and co-manager of this project, Ella Overkleeft, is joining us from Malmö, Sweden. And she's a capacity building manager of Trans-Europe Halls, the Association of European Cultural Centers, of which we, Tardino 6, are the part since last year. And with Ella, I have been facing Ella a lot in the past few months of organizing this event, because if you attended our session 6, where we spoke about project management, I gave you some background of how this project started and how it went through. And it's mainly thanks to Ella and her dedication that we succeeded at getting funding from Swedish Institute in order to organize this. What I could also add about Ella is that she's also very active outside of Trans-Europe Halls. She is the co-founder of the Nightmare Foundation in Amsterdam, and quite active in her approach to work is holistic. And one of her favorite mottos is the one of Pablo Picasso: everything you can imagine is real. And I believe that this is a beautiful, excuse me, beautiful start of our today's conversation with Olga Sismanidi from Creative Europe. And Ella, please, the floor is yours. Introduce our speaker.
Yes, thank you, Asti. Thank you, everybody, for joining again. High amount of numbers, which is very nice to see. And yes, my motto is everything you can imagine is real. And that's also why I work in the art and culture sector, because I believe that art and culture can trigger our imagination to envision new and alternative realities, so we can progress as human beings, I would say so, but let's not go into that depth now. So I will introduce Olga Sismanidi, who I've been working with already, because she's the official, she's my officer actually from the European Education and Cultural Executive Agency. So with Trans-Europe Halls, I work with her, and I actually also report to her with all the activities that we do for the network. But now we invited her to speak about Creative Europe, the program which Trans-Europe Halls also takes part in. And it's quite a huge program with a very big budget and a lot of sub-programs and layers, and it can be quite complex when you hear about it for the first time. So Olga, you just share your presentation with us, explain a little bit about the program, and afterwards we will have room for the audience to ask questions.
Good morning from Brussels, first of all. Thank you for having me in the Cultural Accelerator program. I'm delighted to receive this invitation, and may I thank in advance Ella and Ashley for this, and congratulate you about the excellent organization and initiative. We need to meet people outside the EU. So my name is Olga Sismanidi. I'm working at the European Education and Culture Executive Agency. We have slightly changed our name for the next multi-annual framework program for the next 7 years. And what we do in the agency is that we are managing funds, such as the programs of Erasmus, Creative Europe, the Solidarity Corps, and so on. We're working mainly on the human-centric programs of the Commission, and our work is focused on publishing call for proposals for grants and to manage the selected projects in terms of contractual and financial management. Maybe 1-2 words. My background is on communication policy. I have worked quite a lot in different programs of the EU across innovation, research, entrepreneurship. And the last 12 years, I have worked on the media, been responsible for the action of access to finance, worked on the training, and now in culture, I'm responsible for the digital arts, digitalization, and cross-sectorial projects across the actions of networks like the Transhala Europe network and cooperation projects. So let's go and start the presentation. My aim is to take you on a short journey. I'll try to be as simple as possible, but overall, I'm looking to have a live discussion with you. So we may go to the next slide. Being an institutional organization, we are mandated by institutional processes. At the time of this workshop, our new regulation and our new annual program for 2021 are not yet published. We are at the latest stages, but they are not there. So there are some limitations for myself today. So I thought that I will start by speaking about what is the essence of the program. And this is the culture and creativity. Within the EU, there is no concrete definition what it is culture. And this is broadly open and reflective of the multicultural European ecosystem. The EU incentives for creation aim to promote the progress of art, literature, and media. In a nutshell, the Creative Europe program aims to support meaningful creativity by bringing together all the actors across the sectors and beyond borders, so we can have a collective intelligence and a better impact by empowering diversity and inclusivity. Everybody is welcome into the program within the legal framework, of course, and to give the room to innovate. So everything is possible, as Ella said. So for the past last year, our living conditions have changed, as you're aware, from our working modalities. I'm personally teleworking for the last year, through how the content art is being created, consumed, and experienced, or co-created. This is even more important. So the pandemic has changed the dynamics of global challenges and opportunities. So we are at this stage, and hopefully we will go out of that quite soon, where the major challenge is COVID-19, values, globalization, technology, new consumer choices and tendencies, and what is fit for purpose is under question because there is an ongoing evolution. To my view, if you allow me, creativity is the last unfair competitive advantage. So even during the times of crisis, meaningful creation can assist the different sectors across culture and media, but also the society. The next slide, please. In terms of the institutional framework and the strategy behind the program, very briefly, I will not go through into much detail, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. The cultural and creative sectors are stipulated by the Treaty of the European Union. At the same time, at the policy level, we have the European Agenda for Culture, the Council Work Plan for Culture. We have the EU Strategy for International Cultural Relations, which fits Azerbaijan, I would say. The Digital Single Market Regulation Package, and the new Media Action Plan, which has been launched at the same time with the Creative Europe program. At international framework level, of course, there are various treaties, the UNESCO Convention, the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and so on. Now, at the right side of the slide, you see that this is what the von der Leyen European Commission has introduced, which goes beyond regulation, beyond policy, funding, and investments. They have identified 6 political priorities, and other instruments. So as you can see, the Creative Europe is the main reference point for culture and creativity. And of course, there are other big, larger, if you like, EU flagship programs where culture is addressed. For instance, within Horizon Europe, there is a dedicated section about culture. The difference now between Horizon Europe and Creative Europe is that we are focusing on the content, whereas Horizon Europe is more on infrastructure. At the same time, Erasmus Plus focus on mobility and partnership for creative-based education. And I think it is these days that the Commission is launching the knowledge and innovation communities under the European Innovation Technology Center. And of course, there are the regional funds. It seems complicated or sophisticated, aiming to provide efficiencies, synergies, creative entrepreneurship, scalability, and simplification, where at the same time to ensure or promote citizen engagement, diversity, inclusivity, which are the DNA of the program, as we said. So Creative Europe is about people, artists, the organizations, their art, and their work. Next slide, please. A few words about the budget. The Creative Europe program will run from 2021 till 2027. Given the crisis, the general budget has increased and received up to 600 million, which means that the total budget of the project is 2.5 billion. At the same time, the budget is front-loaded. What it means is that within the next 2 years, 2021, 2022, there will be more opportunities for funding, allowing such a dynamic start with more projects, support to the sectors that they have suffered because of COVID, and fast delivery of results. At the same time, which is not evident on the slide, is that there are novelties and flexibility that are offered by the financial regulations. Whereas usually we speak about synergies and promote the collaboration across the programs, within this framework, the financial framework, there will be the possibility for blending operations, which means the combination of grants, non-repayable forms of support as we call them, and repayable forms of support, which can be loans. And this will be visible within the media program and under the Media Invest platform. So about Creative Europe, I would like to focus a little bit more on the content and on the issues that I could tell you. I have already told you about the state of play. We are on the last part of the process. So we are awaiting the first reading and then the second reading in order the regulation to be approved and to be published. And at the same time, our calls for proposals will be published. So this will be somewhere around May. Creative Europe is a general framework. It brought together media and culture back in 2014 in order to create synergies, efficiencies, and because of the evolution of the sectors as well, I would say. This is the second version of Creative Europe. The general objectives remain the same. So at one side, you have the diversity, cultural heritage, and inclusivity, the soft elements. And at the other side, you have the economic aspects for strengthening the competitiveness or the economic potential of the cultural and creative sectors, which mainly applies to the audiovisual, I would say, but it is not limited to that. Everything is open. It is divided into 3 strands: culture, media, and the cross-sectorial, where culture meets media. Going down on a different level on the specific objectives, we can see similarities between the 2 actions, culture and media. So whereas in culture, the focus is on the creation of European works, innovation on the actions and mobility, we can see these elements in the audiovisual sector and the media, because basically they are producing films there, but they're focusing on competitiveness, on the scalability of the industries, on cooperation, which is an element integrated to culture by default, and sustainability and mobility. At the same time, our parent directorate, DG EAC, works on policy cooperation and launching new innovative actions. And there we have some specific actions about media, media literacy, intercultural dialogue, social inclusion, and freedom of artistic expression. I must note that certain elements of those are cross-cutting themes, and you could see them across all the actions of Creative Europe. And here I think it is something that might be of interest to you, and we may discuss it in more detail. So by the regulation, the Creative Europe and the EU does not have any specific competence on culture. It is complementary to the national and the regional policies and regulation. So the role of the Creative Europe is to generate European added value. And at the same time, the European added value reflects the benefits of the countries and the participants, organizations or artists into the program. In a nutshell, we believe that with the Creative Europe, we provide the ground and the opportunity to have easier access to culture across Europe and even international, to strengthen our common roots and our diversity, to promote our collaborative work, which is what we do mainly, via transnational action and activities, and mobility. And in this way, by bringing all the people together and by allowing them to move across Europe, but even outside Europe, new cultural works are being created and new market opportunities. We believe that with Creative Europe, the brand Creative Europe, we attract the best of the talents or new talents via a specific action we have. And on the left side, where it is bluish, the circles, you could see more the benefits for media, where they are targeting on generating economies of scale, leverage across the media sectors and across the funds, the well-known level playing field, which basically to make the media industry competitive. And overall, we aim to attract the citizen engagement for the betterness of the society. Linked to that, it is the third country participation. Here, what we can say by the regulation is that in the Creative Europe program, all the EU member states participate. This version of Creative Europe will not have the UK, which left the EU, for instance. However, countries of the European Free Trade Association, acceding countries or candidate countries or potential candidate countries, the countries under the European Neighbour Policy, and other countries by specific single agreement with the EU. So how this works, and this is, I must note, this is at the level of the European Commission, it is that there is an agreement between the program, the Commission, and the country, where specific requirements are being put on paper, and there is a contribution from the participating country into the program, and at the same time an earmark for the grants to be received. This is a quite sensitive issue, considering that the regulation is not been published yet. This information is based on the draft regulation, and the political competence is under the European Commission. So I would propose that if needed for more detailed and thorough discussion on the issue, then you need to contact the European Commission directly. So let's see the culture program a little bit more, because I'm working there as well. So we saw the general objectives, we saw the specific objectives, and now each program, culture and media, have their own priorities. Once again, you will see that many things are repetitive in a way to emphasize them all the more. So the priorities for culture is to strengthen the transnationalism through cross-border collaboration, circulation and visibility of the European works, and the mobility of the artists and the operators, to help access the European culture, to support the professional capabilities and capacities of the actors. And this event is a perfect example, I would say. To foster European identity and values, and these are the soft elements of the program, and as well to contribute to the EU global strategy for international relations. Creative Europe will become during the next 7 years more international, I would say. So a few words about the culture sub-program structure. If you're familiar with the program, but even if you're not, we have 4 main action lines which will remain. These are the cooperation projects, the European networks, which Transhala Europe is part of it, the European platforms, and the book and publishing sector, which deals more with translation. At the same time, the new program, and these are the novelties, will introduce specific support for the music sector, architecture, cultural heritage, and other sectorial actions that they may be identified in the future. On the permanent basis, mobility and circulation will be introduced sometime next year. This will be the Erasmus for the cultural and creative sector, and a permanent action for the internationalization. Of course, we have there the work of DGAC, who they are focusing on development. And across all these actions, diversity, inclusiveness, creativity, and innovation are cross-cutting themes. Perhaps I could say 1 minute or less for each action line. So for the cooperation projects, what they are aiming is to bring together cultural and creative organizations from different countries to undertake sectoral or cross-sectorial activities. The main objective is transnational creation and circulation, along introducing innovative solutions for capacity building, talent nurturing, jobs, and growth. The priority span from audience to social inclusion, environment, new technology, internationalization, and some specific priorities might be set each year depending on the circumstances. So this is an area where a third country, an action I should say, this is an action where a third country or organizations from a third country could participate. Because the minimum requirement for the participation to the cooperation projects is the setting up a consortium of minimum 3 partners or 5 partners or even more. In the past, we have a threshold of 30% dedicated to third country cost, because the participation is being measured and reflected on the cost of the project. Within the new Creative Europe program, we don't have any limitation. So it becomes, and this is the effort to make the program a little bit more international. At the same time, we have the other action, which is called European Network. And this is based on transnational membership of organizations aiming to foster the capacity of their members in a specific sector for structural effects. So the main objective is capacity building. Within the European networks, as we have this event now, it could be that the established European networks, that there are 28 for the time being, but now we will have the new call and we need to see how many they will be. Countries from organizations from your country could approach, for instance, TEI, in order to participate into the network, provided that there is a common ground. At the other level, we have the European platforms, which are focusing on emerging talents. Mainly, the focus is on the European emerging talents, but it might be that things will change. We don't know yet. And whereas the networks support the organizations, the platforms support individual artists through the publication of the calls for proposals. And they set up platforms, and through their own platforms dedicated to specific sectors, like for the dance or for music or for composers, they are supporting the circulation and the visibility of new talents. Maybe to close up this detailed presentation on the actions, to say something about the book and publishing, by which we are promoting translated literature by transnational development, collaborative and innovative action. So basically the action is focused on the creation, circulation and promotion of translated, adapted or accessible literature work from laser language into the 5 main European languages, which is English, Spanish, German, French and Italian. At the same time, GIAC is doing their own special action, focusing on prizes, on the European Capitals of Culture, European Heritage Label, and other special actions like the European Youth Orchestra we have, or other similar organizations. The European prizes ranges from music, literature, and architecture through to cultural heritage. And as you can see, these are the areas where the Commission, for the time being, has identified that we will introduce specific actions for these sectors because there is quite a lot of demand. Within the framework of the specific actions, just to give you an idea how it works, in 2018, the Commission launched a specific action dedicated to music called Music Moves Europe, which is surrounded by policy, by legislation, consultation with the public, and we had a very good evidence. So to give you an example, 135 projects were dedicated to music projects. The same is the case for the EU Mobility, where it has been launched as a preparatory action. We have launched some calls for expression of interest for artists to participate in a different areas that they were covered. And if I'm not mistaken, the deadline for the last call was yesterday. Maybe we could see the next slide, please. And now the opportunities in the future will become the EU Mobility, resembling the Erasmus program, but dedicated to cultural and creative. Another initiative which is broadly advertised by the Commission is the European Bauhaus, very much linked to the European Green Deal. This is a political priority of the Commission, and aims to go beyond the buildings, to be human-centered, to look for sustainability and circularity, and to see how artists and culture can assist the transformation of the European Bauhaus within the EU. We have some planning there, so the process will go, it started in late 2020, it will go up to 2024. There were some information sessions in February, but it might be that we will have more because now the project starts. And I would encourage you, if you're interested, if you are around dealing with environmental issues, or you have ideas how culture and artists or operators can support and assist the formation of the European Bauhaus, to consult on their website. Now, Creative Europe how-to. Just a briefly outline of the program. The program now offers more opportunities because the budget is almost 50% higher. It provides for continuity, so for project beneficiaries that already been familiar, it will not be a surprise, but at the same time, there is some evolution and some new specific actions. We focus, I cannot say that enough, on transnational creation, circulation, on the creative community and innovation. We aim to provide in the agency simplified forms of grants, so to minimize the administration. At the same time, for the cooperation projects, the EU co-financing will be increased. This we can say. Provided that you have found your way around on partnership and your participation to the projects, these are some specific guidelines or advice, if you like, that we give to our beneficiaries. So, because when a project has been selected, it is been monitored, like people like me, from people like me, and then in the end, there will be a report with what the project has been achieved, what were the impacts, and so on. So we consider as success factors that a project in the end exceeds the initial requirements, there are no delays, the budget is decent, and at the level of the results and impacts, we need to look at the main aims of the programs, which is creation, distribution, and mobility. At the same time, training, capacity building, jobs, and growth, if that would be possible. And of course, to raise awareness about the cultural and creative sectors. At the present, we have identified that synergies and scalability can be pursued through other EU national or regional funding, and with the collaboration of public-private sector investment, which can be even philanthropy. And of course, lastly, but not the least, it is the most important, this version of the program is looking towards meaningful creativity that I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, which means that how culture can tackle EU priorities and global challenges via the inherent creativity we have and innovation. The EU synergies now can be pursued within the Creative Europe program because we have the 4 standard actions, the book of publishing and music, but at the same time with the media on the content cluster, a business cluster. The cross-cultural media strand will deal with innovation labs and media news, but as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, other EU programs include Erasmus, EIT, Horizon Europe, START Initiative, EU support for digital arts, and it might be that we will have more. At the same time, beyond the networks of the Creative Europe, there are other European networks that they are dealing with creativity and innovation. How we are doing our work in the agency is that via a portal where now all the information will be selected and will be placed in one area from the organization and the company information, which is important for the contracts, through to the call for proposals. All the reporting will be done online, but at the same time, it's not only about the Creative Europe, it's about all the EU funds that they are available to the public, as well as the procurement, the tender opportunities, as we call them. I think we have finished, yes. And of course, I would like to invite you to follow up our masters so that they are responsible for the Creative Europe program. We have dedicated social media teams for the culture and the media program. We are on the Facebook, some links that it might be of interest and useful for you after this presentation. And normally I would say that please contact your national desk, but I'm aware that there is none for the time being in your country. So please don't hesitate to contact us if there are any questions. Thank you very much. I hope that I was within the time given. I do apologize if I am late. I'm ready to take questions and I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olga. Every time I see the scope of this project, I'm like, wow, it's so many levels, and very impressive that you work with this, I have to say. Okay, there's a question, and it goes like this. During the call for 21-27, can a small local Azerbaijani music band expect funding from Creative Europe?
Not by itself, because for the time being, it depends how this organization, this band, a band or organization, a band.
Music band, yeah.
A music band. A music band should normally go through platforms because they are supporting emerging artists. For the time being, I mean, we will have a new call and all the requirements will be there. So if the aim of this band will be to travel around to present their work in a different audience and they need a platform, then the appropriate outlet is the European Platform Actions. For the time being, it is opened to the European artists, but they got the last program. So now we will have the new program. The program will go international, but then of course we need to wait and see the official publication. But in case of it will be open to third countries, then I think this is the most appropriate action for them.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and in the same line, when I was listening, I wrote down, so for these culture sub-programs, which are the cooperation projects, for example, would you explain or give the same reason that we have to wait until it's more clear if third countries could participate, or is this different for the cooperation?
Yes, exactly. Thank you for the question. It is different for the cooperation project because the action will put some requirements for the European participating organizations into the program. Okay, so just let me rephrase it. In the Creative Europe, there will be the participating countries are the EU from the economic area and so on. We have seen it. So the organizations that they are coming from those countries are eligible to participate in the Creative Europe. And we need a minimum number of them. So for instance, the minimum number in the last program, it was 3 organizations. Having secured that, a consortium could also add a partner or an associate partner from a third country, which can be from Azerbaijan. And the good news are that there are no financial limitations. Of course, it cannot be that one project will be focused, let's say, in a non-participating country, but there are opportunities to participate via a consortium. So in this respect, I think it is important, you know, the extroversion, going to having more contacts or following up events under the funding and tenders portal. There is an option for partners. So people can, organizations can register themselves to say that I'm interested to participate in the research project or the Creative Europe project. We have that, and then try to build bridges in a way via the already established organizations in Europe. I would say that this is the key for the time being. Of course, if Azerbaijan will join Creative Europe, then it will be a different story. Because all the projects, all the organizations will be eligible for everything.
Yeah, I see. So if I understood correctly, if we want to organize a follow-up of the Cultural Accelerator program, can Tardino 6 and Trans-Europe start a cooperation project, or we could not do it because it's focused on Azerbaijan. It should be focused on European countries and then Azerbaijan as a third country.
The aim is to have a cross-border focus. So not to be a national project, because we cannot fund national projects. So how the cooperation projects are being devised, if you like, is that they have an action, they have common activities to produce something. It can be an artwork, it can be a theater play, it can be, you know, even a technology, it can be an application right now, dealing with a new advanced technology like artificial intelligence and so on, or it can be a training module, you know, and the aim is to prove the transnational character of the consortium based on transnational activities, which should provide for mobility. So, for instance, your organization and our hosting organization can come together, but it could be that you could have exchanges of personnel, or you have training sessions in both countries. But 2 organizations are not enough. You need one more.
Yeah, which organization in Azerbaijan is the focal point to get further information on the initiative that you presented today? Yeah, so you already say there's not an official desk in Azerbaijan, but is there any focal point that people might?
I am not aware. I'm sorry to disappoint you about that, but I'm not aware. I assume that it should be the ministry, either the Ministry for External Relations or Education and Culture, if they have. I don't know the political structure and the government structure in Azerbaijan, but for the time being, we don't have any.
No,
unfortunately.
No, that's not a problem. And I mean, we know that there are conversations being held between Azer, the new ministry, I think, and the Creative Europe program. So it's just a matter of having some patience, I think, to things become more clear, for also within the framework of this new cultural policy that is being developed. So I would say, and I mean, if people from the ministry are watching now, this is of course a question. Maybe it's time to create a certain kind of desk or any kind of place or person where people can go with questions about the status of partaking in the Creative Europe program. But yeah, that's out of our hands. We cannot say.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if there is a demand, if there is a national ecosystem that they are very keen to travel, their works to travel, themselves to travel, or to establish a more international presence, which is one of the aims of the Creative Europe. And there is a political interest as well, then why not? It is for the politicians to discuss, to speak, to sign an agreement and so on. But I have to say that the last years we had Ukraine, we have Georgia, we had Moldova. Maybe I skipped something now, but it doesn't matter. So it might be, you know, always the beginning is the new presents a challenge, but an opportunity. So it might be that in the beginning we have a couple, 3 projects or 4 projects, something like that. But then as the time goes by and the people get more familiar with the program and the requirements, then things can be involved.
Yeah.
But again, it is up to the market, up to the sectors.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And you mentioned these countries. Do you have any examples at top of mind of projects from Ukraine or Moldavia or?
I don't have it right now, but if you're interested and if the audience is interested, what we can do is to compile a list for circulation after this meeting, if that will be all right.
Let's. I mean, it might be good because people can then have an understanding of what type of projects you could work with. I think
yes.
it's good.
In the last slide of my presentation, I give an address for the Creative Europe Projects database. This database includes all our completed projects, which provide for a description for what they are, and perhaps you can see European Creative Project Database. Oh, yeah. And there you can make a search even, I think, by country. So there you will have it even in more detail, because the completed projects need to submit all the deliverables, what we call. And this is what they have produced during the funding period and their project. But basically what we do is, I cannot say that enough. We gather people together, organizations, artists, maybe educators or national authorities, national organizations, because we have that as well, universities, and they gather all together, excuse me, and they put down a plan and a proposal, what they would like to achieve. And based on that aim, they proposed activities. And these activities are being budgeted. The European Commission, the Creative Europe program, co-finance these budgeted activities by a certain percentage. So for instance, for the networks is 80%, if I recall well. For the European project starts from 50%, and it will increase to a higher percentage. And at the same time, the program supports the option to make the cultural and creative operators to look for other funds, because they need to ensure co-financing, as you know, Ella. And then I think that in this way, the professionalization of the actors is been promoted as well, because suddenly an artist needs to have to deal with administration that we are aiming now to reduce it. But nevertheless, it is business skills as well. If someone has to do a planning to define activities, who will participate, how it will be done, how it will be good, what will be the results and impact. So these are business skills, clearly to me.
Yes, yes, that's good that you pointed out, because it's quite high level fund application process, I would say. Still, even for me, it's not easy, but that's also one of the reasons why we organized Cultural Accelerator. I mean, not for you to be able to apply for funding at Creative Europe, but in general to build the capacity. And for example, we had the project management session, because it's about the professionalization of the sector as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. This is a perfect example that that I am here with you, and I thank you very much, actually.
Yeah. This is from Viviana. Can three European participants be independent artists, or must they be organization? Let's say 3 circus artists from Italy, Belgium, and Spain who want to make a play together and tour around. Would they be able to apply for a fund?
For the time being, individuals could not apply. They need to have a company.
But also for opportunists also?
No, for opportunities is a different thing. It is about mobility. But if we speak, I thought that the question was about cooperation project. No, or it was a general. It was
it's general. Okay. But she mentions if they want to play together and tour around. That's why I thought of mobility.
Yes, mobility. This will be an opportunity, and the other opportunity is the platform.
Yeah.
Because we have a dedicated platform for circus. So they are promoting the emerging artists throughout Europe to ensure the visibility, to make them known better, and to increase, their networking and professionalism. So there is a platform dedicated for that till the new program starts. So now we need to see whether we will have this platform within the new Creative Europe program. So if we will have our calls around May, June, something like that. Then by the end of the year, we will know the new networks and platforms and cooperation projects, at least for 2021. And there they have the opportunity to apply, of course. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so then it might be good to have another session for the Azerbaijani cultural sector once all these calls are out.
Of course.
To check. Okay.
I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Does Creative Europe support multiculturology team academic writings, dissertations? No. No, I think this is
no. This is clear.
Yeah. Okay. How do you think the integration of culture into government agencies should be organized? What are the suggestions for Azerbaijani model?
I admit that I am not fully aware of the model. So if someone can elaborate, then I can share my loud thoughts because I don't know the model. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, maybe Asli, so maybe could you explain a little bit more so that Olga can answer more properly?
Well, I assume that the question was linked to the earlier presentation where you spoke about the fact that there's still no representation of Creative Europe in Azerbaijan. So maybe this is the question that the follow-up of this. Otherwise, if we speak in general about who are the actors, like the main actors, stakeholders of the cultural policy or cultural strategies, obviously this is the Ministry of Culture, which we will be having a conversation next week on Friday. The advisor to the current minister, Kerimov, Mr. Elnur Aliyev, will be speaking on behalf of the ministry, also explaining the new vision and the ambitions of the Ministry of Culture and what type of changes are we expect to have with that. And when we speak about legislation, this is a National Assembly that is working on creating the laws. But unfortunately, for the past 10 years, I would say there was not much refreshment or update of the laws to the present day needs and necessities of the cultural sector. So, and I assume that this part is tackled by the Ministry of Culture, but at the same time, they are not it's outside of their scope of responsibility or influence, obviously.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
Yeah, and other like organizations that are influencing the cultural policy, well, actually the how to deal with culture and creative industries, it's obviously Ministry of Economy and taxes, customs. So that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for confirming that culture, it is a national competence. You see, it's everywhere. It is a national governmental competence. So for us, the only thing that we can do as Creative Europe is to support collaboration. and complementarity to the national initiatives, of course.
Let's do the last question. The question comes from Sumgait City's Regional Cultural Department. Can there be a cooperation in online education by inviting foreign teachers? So this is, yeah, be honest.
It could be as a part of a cooperation project, but not having the sole aim, not the mobility. It needs to be a part of a broader plan and of a broader project, which will involve the mobility of the teachers. This can be done.
Yeah,
but not per se, because the program is not about the mobility of the teachers. Maybe there is something in the Erasmus program. I'm not fully aware of that, but I have seen that there are professional mobility between educational institution, let me call it like that, and a cultural organization, because it could have made some staff exchanges, for instance. The academic to gain some experience on how the cultural sector works, or the other way around. But it needs to be of a part of a broader plan and project.
It can be one of the activities in this broader plan.
Exactly. Thank you.
I think we should wrap up now. Thank you, Olga, once more for joining us.
Pleasure.
And I think, Asli, what we should do is, well, we have some points that I have seen coming back multiple times in the other sessions as well, is that there's very much a need for this mobility and exchange with the other countries and with Europe. So I think this is a point that we should look into more in depth in the upcoming period for Azerbaijan. And I think it's good if we make a summary. Maybe we'll check it with you, Olga, which of the programs could be eligible for the Azeri artists or organizations. So the cooperation projects, IPUTUNAS for mobility, etc. We will make a list and share it with the participants. And what else? Yeah, and maybe also within the session of with the ministry that we will have next Friday, we can ask maybe also about the Creative Europe program, what the status is. Let's see.
Yes. And then I will appreciate as well to be kept in the loop, because I very much appreciate that we have such a big number of participants. So it shows that there is interest on that. And if there are any questions, you know where I am. Asli, you know where I am. So I would say the participants or other people through you can come to me. You can reach me through you.
We will be the portal. Yes. Okay, great, Olga. Thanks so much. Asli, do we have a last poll to share?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to Olga and to Ella to moderating this discussion today, and Olga for your generosity of time and support.